I do have a quick question as you move forward, and I don't know if you'll touch on it and what you're talking about tonight, but I just finishing or wrapping up a course, and one of the things or one of the questions they asked there, I put a response in, but when it comes to teams and training and all that, is it a requirement that a team has a team doctor if the team is concerned about how that doctor and what that doctor might be prescribing players?
Ooh, that's a good question. You know, I that's something that has to be taken up with your board and yourself and your leadership group. I think that's really important because you know you are in charge. You're the coach. Everyone's trusting you're going to do the right thing, but sometimes you need help too, and you need to go above. You need to get all the facts. You need to collect all the information to make the right decision. And when it falls ultimately on you, that's hard. So it's really important that you get as much information from everybody, and not so much maybe the players' parents. It's more so your peers. It's the board. It's the higher ups in your organization. Unless you are the higher up, then you might have to seek someone else. Maybe it's Dave. Maybe it's someone within your structure. And you have to collect all the information. I think that's the most important thing. You can't make a rash decision off hearsay or what they're prescribing. And I'm sure that if they're prescribing something, it's got to be, their parents have to be aware of it also. So at the same time, before that even gets to that stage, you have to know that this person is trustworthy. This person has the player's best interest, has the team's best interest, not his best interest.
Wonderful.
With that regard.
Thank you. That's a tough question to start off an evening, so I really appreciate that.
No, my pleasure.
Stuart's got no problem just throwing heat right, first pitch. No, right down the middle.
Nice swung. I don't know if I hit it or missed it or what, but it's a good start anyway.
Hey, my name's Jim. Go ahead.
No, go for it, Jim. Jump in.
My name's Jim Cordina. I'm in North Vancouver. We just get dumped on too. My question's pretty specific. I find that players are pretty good at protecting themselves along the boards. I mean, everybody, you teach them how to take the hits along the boards, but I'm finding that there's so many injuries, open ice with high hits, you know, with the arms coming up and hitting the players fairly high. Is there any tricks that you can sort of tell us about how to protect yourself open ice or against these high hits? Is there a way to protect teach your kids to protect themselves better?
I think a lot of it has to do with the way the game's changed. Like the speed of the game is unbelievable and the variance in size is unbelievable. Now, Jim, I'm not going to be able to, I'm not skirting this question, and it's a very good question. Is there any tricks? No, I think there's a lot of things that these players today, they're so skilled, and a lot of them just think that no one's going to touch them. And a lot of these skilled players, they don't have respect for the opposition because they think that they're above it in most parts, and they're not going to be susceptible to that hit until someone steps up on them. And now I'm not saying that they're dirty hits, but like I was watching a college game yesterday, and this kid just got laid out. But he's 5'8", and the guy that hit him is 6'1", and the guy that hit him got a roughing penalty. And I'm like, it was a clean open ice hit there. The kid had his head down and he skated right into him. Basically, the puck was there, but it's just that size mismatch. But also, it's the onus is on the player. It's the onus is on the puck carrier. He's got to get his head up. He's got to know his surroundings. He just can't say, okay, I'm just going to skate through the middle of the ice. He's got to know. He's got to sneak a peek over his shoulder, and that's all done in practice. Like, good habits are created in practice. Those kids on the wall, when they get a breakout pass, they're just probably watching. Some of these young kids, they're just watching the defenseman pass them the puck. They're not even watching where their centerman is, where their defenseman is, where their other player. Like, they haven't even took a peek over their shoulder. They haven't exposed themselves. They haven't opened their hips up to open up to see the up ice, to get their toe caps up ice. And therefore, sometimes those hits on the wall are a lot more vicious than they should be. And that's the onus on the player that's receiving the puck. How do you escape that? How do you brace for that? Now, unless they've snuck a peek and they know he's coming and they stick their butt out or something like that, that's a little different. But those open ice hits, a lot of them are, you know, some responsibility has to be taken for the puck carrier and the passer. He's got to know that someone's beating down on him too. He gives him a pass, and basically it's a suicide pass, because that's all you've got a chance to maybe touch the puck before you get lit up and you're counting ceiling tiles. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of it has to do with the habits that are created throughout practice and in game situations and the tight area games, all that, because, you know, you want to have that physical element, but at the same time, you have to have an awareness of your surroundings. I think that's the biggest thing. And some of these players today, I'll be honest with you, some of these junior players that are coming up, and they're slick and everything like that, but Dustin Byfuglien just has to, you know, pretend he's going to step up a couple of years ago, and the next thing you know, he's just dropped his drawers and he's going, holy crying out loud, I just about got killed.
Yeah.
And there's a difference, and the speed of the game is so different, and some of these kids just don't have a respect on that side of it. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question right, Jim, but I don't know if there's anything that they can do except know that the guys come and feel the heat and try and elude it. I'm not saying duck the hit or anything like that, but try and get out of the way, try and move the puck, or just leave the puck. And sometimes you might have to take the hit. It's a tough one because you don't see as much contact anymore.
Yeah, I've just seen a number of concussions, and they were all open ice, and I was just yeah.
And that's predatory. So a lot of it, you know, and then that goes back to who's passing the puck to him. Is he putting that guy in a vulnerable situation? Then maybe it's the guy that's passing the puck. Why are you passing it to him in a situation where he's got a chance? Or maybe that player's got to come back 3 feet, so he gains some separation so he can elude that checker. It's all about building speed and coming together and not trying to stretch things out so that you're on an island by yourself. You're allowing yourself to be vulnerable.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Hey, Jamie, along lines of that with the open ice, and up here in the north, I'm noticing it a whole lot more. The player makes a hit, they finish their check, and as they're skating away from the check, right, they've made the separation, they've acquired the puck, and a player turns and, you know, gives a puncher of that to the back of the head. Often talking up to officials up here, they say that they're not calling that a penalty, that somebody finished a check. Along the same lines with the head injuries that happen and the concussions is like, I'm sure at the pro level, there's all kinds of tricks that players use to, you know, try to intimidate others. Is there some, you know, tricks that you might have telling players how to, you know, how to avoid that, or how to protect themselves after making the hit and acquiring the puck?
Well, I think the big thing is that if you've made the hit and you're taking off with the puck, the first thing is that you got to get your feet moving. That's the biggest thing. Like, or you're shoveling it to someone, or your partner's there, or your second quick's there. He's getting the puck for you, and then you stay engaged with that player. And now that person skates away with the puck. Your player, your second quick, skates away with the puck. Then therefore you're engaged with that player. So I don't think he's going to do anything to you when he's looking at you eye to eye. He's not going to punch you in the head. And if he does, well, then you guys got the power play. So away you go. But on the other side of it, you know, I have a hard time with officials if they feel that that's a penalty. I'm sorry, but that's a penalty. You got hit, you got knocked off the puck, you're embarrassed. You take that's a retaliatory penalty to me. Now,
yeah, that's what I deem too, right? And you know, especially minor hockey, sometimes you're quiet about that on the bench. But what you're saying also, like along the lines of the other person that was talking to, is that separation and coaching the players and breaking it down in practice. If this is what we're experiencing, then we need that second option. We need that third option. We need to move the puck, because the player, at some point, they are going to get called for a penalty. And our job isn't to stick around and, you know, take the hit, move it up to somebody else, get the play moving.
Yeah. Well, you know, in our game, it's really tough that you're going to actually gain separation. Yeah, okay. There are times where you rub a guy off and you're able to, gain that separation, play through the player's hands, and you've got body position, so you're going to get first touch on that puck. But in a
Right.
tight area, usually you're waiting for help, or you've got help, or you're flushing the puck where that is you're poking it or flushing it up the boards to the winger or back behind the net to your partner that's there waiting, or you're controlling the puck area with your skates and your body waiting for and listening for your partner to come in, and you're kicking it to them, or they're picking it out of that pile. Your second man is quicker than their second man, so to speak.
Right.
And
Right.
I think the biggest thing is that when you're going in, you always want to protect yourself. That's the first thing. But at the same time, when you get that puck, you're not standing around waiting for someone to strip it off you. You got to get your feet moving. That's the most important thing. We talk about, you get the puck, you're taking ice. You're taking all the ice. You take as much open ice. You don't stand there in tripod because someone's going to take it off you. You just did a job to take the puck off them. Now get your feet moving right away. That's what we talk about all the time. There's two things that come out of my mouth on the bench. First thing is skate. The second thing is stick. Stick on the ice, stick on puck, and skate. Take your ice. And I can't tell you, if I say that once, I say it probably 100 times during the course of a game. So.
Okay, let me just jump in here. I'm gonna finally introduce Jamie here real quick. I didn't ever did that yet. We're 15 minutes in. After that, Grace has got the next question, and then after that will be Briar McNaney, who got you guys in line there. But just if you weren't sure, Jamie, as I mentioned, assistant coach of Winnipeg Jets, originally from Thunder Bay, Ontario. But previously, prior to that, when he did start with the Jets in 16-17, worked with the LA Kings from 06 to 2012, and 2 seasons with the Chicago Blackhawks from 2012 to 2014. You may recall those are pretty good years for both of those teams, and Jamie was around for cups in both, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. So not only was he part of one dynasty, bona fide dynasty, as Gary Bettman called it, but also with another team that winning 5 cups in that span is pretty amazing. So you got one of the best minds here right now. But prior to those times there, spent time with the St. Louis Blues as well. 9 seasons with them in various roles as well. Assistant coach, video coach, strength and conditioning coach, a real Swiss Army knife, a human Swiss Army knife here. And also a video coach with Team Canada at the IIHF World Championships in 05-06. Played himself as well, was a defenseman at McGill for a few years, and where he earned a degree in education. Some of those things came in handy. And also played some pro himself in Germany as well as the East Coast Hockey League. So you got a great one to learn from here. As I said, brought a cup to my LA Kings, finally broke the 50-year drought. So I owe him a very, very large debt of gratitude. So that's a little background on who you got before you tonight here. So Grace, why don't you jump in with your question? Briar, you get ready after her.
Fantastic. Thank you. Hi, Jamie. My name's Grace. I'm from Prince George, British Columbia, so I'm from up north. I actually have a question that kind of goes with us talking about officials. I'm a nationally ranked official, and I was just wondering, what are some of the ways that officials can make your life easier? And what are some of the ways that we can communicate in ways to make the game run smoother and to make sure that we're understanding each other better?
I think just the line of communication. I think that's the biggest thing, Grace, is you're the be all and end all. We're not going to change your mind. We just want to know what you're thinking. We want to know where you're coming from. And, there's times where, there's coaches that don't stop. They start, it's funny because they started the national anthem, and before the national anthem even plays, and they're starting on the referees, and they don't stop, and they need throat lozenges by the time it's all said and done. Now, that being said, there are some that are really good. All they want to know is what the call is, or what did you see there, or what's going on. And you don't have to come over right away, but eventually make your way over so that there can be an explanation. I think that common courtesy, that common respect is really important because it makes our job easier. And, hey, referees make mistakes. They come over, and I know the good ones come over and they just say, hey, we missed that one. Or, hey, I'm sorry, I blew that one. Not that I owe you, but I blew that one. That's my bad. And, they communicate with you. And I think that's the biggest thing. And then talking to the captains. I think that's important too. If the captain, and I'm talking, like I'm not talking, he's going around looking like a village idiot trying to embarrass you. That's the last thing we want to do.
Right.
And as coaches, we have to remember that, you know, as young coaches, you have to remember that your team takes on your personality. So if you're going to be a village idiot, they're going to be village idiots. So if you yell at the referee, they're going to yell at the referee. So I think it's a double-edged sword. We want that communication, but we can't be yelling, screaming, because that gives our players a right to yell and scream too. So Grace, I think if you are 100% right in terms of the communication and holding your ground on what you believe in, talking to the captain, make sure that the coach is not embarrassing you, especially, or any of your linesmen. That's the most important thing. And if that's the case, then call the captain over, let him know the lay of the land, or let her know the lay of the land, and move forward from there. And then eventually do a drive-by by the bench. But the other thing is that don't look for a reaction from the bench. Don't stand. If you make a call and it's kind of that one of those gray area calls, and you know it's a gray area call, just stay away from our bench. Don't come and stand in front of our bench and not talk to us, because you're just given you're given a license for us to chirp you. And not us particular, I wouldn't do that, but you're giving our players a chance to have their piece with it. And there's some referees that do that, and then they put the rabbit ears up and they give everyone 10s, and it's an embarrassment actually. And you feel bad because they're doing that, and they know they're doing that, and you just can't play into their hands. So you just have to understand it and move on from there.
Absolutely, and thank you for that answer. And I actually have a second question as well. I'm a skills coach with the Vancouver Minor Hockey Association, with the female association. And I was just wondering if, when you're working with a player, do you have some sort of checklist that you go through in your mind? Do you start with like a skating skill, you go skating to hands to eyes up? Do you go through a checklist when you're working with a player, or do you mostly just try and work on certain targeted points within the skill?
Well, I think it all depends on the player and their age and where they're at, their skill. Like there's a lot of variables there, and it's hard to give you an answer, Grace, because I wouldn't say, well, sure, they got to know how to skate. That's the most important thing. They got to be able to skate. They got to be, but there's things that they can do within the skating. Their pivots, their open pivots, their closed pivots. It's the forwards, backwards. It's everything like that. The defenseman going back around pucks. You know, the game's played on the wall. Like 75 to 85% are played outside the dots. And it's picking those pucks up off the boards. It's feeling comfortable, how to gain separation, all those little details. But it's all about, you have to get a visual of what you see. So the first thing is maybe skate with some pucks, to have them skate. If you don't know the group that you're skating with, you're going out there sight unseen, you kind of got to evaluate and do some drills to evaluate, whether it's stick handling, heads up, or just a warm up stick handle, you know, through the zones, amongst traffic, and see if their heads are up, see if they're not, see if they can skate and stick handle at the same time. I know it sounds elementary, but we don't know what level you're dealing with. So as you get to more advanced and you're dealing with more advanced players, it's about all that separation. It's about keeping your head up. It's about finding those options. Like the first thing is gaining separation in the offensive zone and then looking to attack. And if you can't attack, well, what are your options from there? Where are you going to go? You're not hiding behind the net. You want to take it inside, but you got to know where your options are on that too. And defensively, it's how you check. Where's your stick? Stick on the ice, stick on puck. One shoulder to the puck, one shoulder to the man you're covering. All those little details that can be done within a small area in a confined space. So I hope that answers your question. It's a little vague, I know, but it opens a big can of worms, because I could talk about this all night. And it's just about where they're at in their maturation process and where they are in terms of where they want to get to also.
That's fair. Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Good question. Briar, go ahead, and then Jonathan Ho, you'll be after Briar.
And then Dave, if after a few more questions, can I just talk, and then I'll take all the questions. I'll be here all night. I don't care. Okay.
Okay. So
I'll get what's on my plate off, and then we move forward. Okay.
We're doing this a little different. Usually we start with the presentation. Now we're doing the Q&A first. This is
there you go. Okay. That's fine. I'm all for it. I'm going to forget this. I got part-timers, so I'm going to forget this pretty soon. No, it's all good. No, it's all
So
good.
right after Jonathan's question, that'll be the last question until after the actual presentation.
It's not really a presentation. I'm just
Get
going
to
to talk to you
eventually, I'm
guys.
sure.
So
Anyway, go ahead, Briar.
Hi, Jamie. I was just curious. I coach junior hockey, Columbia Valley Rockies in the KIJHL. And I've found, especially at the junior level, that there's a lot of players with, I guess, lack of a better term, an identity crisis. Everybody thinks that they're a point per game, first line forward, power play guy. But realistically, at the junior level, you don't have those guys all the time, or else they'd be higher up. So I guess, how would you deal with some of those players who are having that sort of crisis?
trust me, everyone comes in, they're all centermen and they're all half wall guys in the power play. That's just the way it is. And then it's the harsh reality of it and having those tough conversations. You know, we got to get the most out of your skill set. And it's not about, and so I appreciate where they are and and some of the players are probably a little older too. So they're trying to get through this, and they want to have a good feeling going out of this. But at the end of the day, it's about a team. It's about we, not about me. It's about us, not about I. And I think that that's really important. And it's a self-realization. Hey, we're not all half wall players. We're not all centermen, and we're all not all number one power play guys. So it's your job as the coach to sit them down and have that reality conversation with them. Look, I'm going to put you in the best position to succeed. So if this is the best position for you to succeed, that means if you succeed, we succeed. And if we succeed, then there's a greater chance, because we're winning, that you're going to get exposed. There's exposure for you. And that means whether it's moving up, getting a college scholarship, playing junior A, whatever it is, whatever their goals are, they're going to have that opportunity. Because anytime you win or anytime you're having success, somebody wants players off your team. What are they doing right? There's a reason why you get Stanley Cup champions, whether it's Brian Noonan or Stefan Matteau or Sean Podine. Why these guys get traded at the deadline is because they've won. They've got a missing ingredient. They've got something that someone else doesn't have. And that's really important. And so they have to understand that. And would you rather be great? This is a dumb question, but do you want to be in the Hall of Fame, or do you want to win a Stanley Cup? At the end of the day, the most important thing is to win, is to attach your name. And I guarantee you ask those guys that are in the Hall of Fame, their biggest regret is that they didn't win. Some of them that never won, that's probably their biggest regret. And we were talking about that the other day in our office. And those guys would trade that for the world to win and to be associated to a winner. And that's what it's all about. That's why we play the game. Yeah, okay, we can have 1,000 points, but at the end of the day, what is that? You weren't part of something that was done together. I've got a special bond, and I'm very fortunate that I have that special bond with some real great players that are people that are great people, and that I've got that bond, and I'll be connected with them for life because of that. So for you as coach, you've got to sit down and strategically not come out and bury your, like, it's just let them know this is where they are in the pecking order. And this is how you're going to help make them better in order to get them to their next stage of their career, wherever that is. So whatever that is, you have to come up with a game plan for those players that are having problems with that identity crisis and thinking that they're better, or they're above the team. They're part of the team. That's why they're there. And you know what? You can have a couple of those guys, but you can't have a team of them. You're not going to win. And at the end of the day, you're going to end up pulling all your hair out, and you're going to be miserable. No, you will be. You won't enjoy what you do, and you're supposed to enjoy what you do. Yeah, it's supposed to be trying. It's supposed to be hard, but at the end of the day, you got to love what you do too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Let's go to Jonathan, and we'll let Jamie actually kick things off here. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Sure. Thanks for taking the question. I'm with the Richmond Ravens Female Hockey Association. I'm sure I've played Grace's, my teams have played Grace's teams at some point with the Vancouver Angels. I've got a team where they've got a bit of tunnel vision, right? So in practice, right, you give them some options and when they're doing 3-on-2s or whatnot, and forwards coming in on a D. And hey, no, you say, okay, yeah, I've got options to go wide, go, do a drop pass, whatnot. And then when it comes to even a scrimmage, let alone game, then the tunnel vision sort of sets in, and then they're only looking right in front of them. So I guess sort of the question is, what sort of tips do you have to try and get them to sort of open up their horizons a little bit if they're trying to problem solve quickly on the ice and not just getting sucked into looking right at the puck, looking at the feet of the defenseman right in front of them? What sort of tips and tricks you might have on that?
Well, do you play any small area games?
All the time, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the biggest thing. And the other thing that when I say that, you're playing 2-on-2 down low, you might have a line or one person that's your outlet.
Yep.
And that's important because now they got to find that person. And you can have them slide. They can slide. So now they've got to find that person. So when they're in trouble, now they've got to locate where that person is and who that player is and where that player is on the ice. And I think that helps them because now, okay, I've got to make one pass and it's got to be to her or to him at that point before I can shoot on the net. Well, then I'm going to make sure that I'm watching and I'm looking and I know where they are on the ice. And I think that helps them, maybe not the tunnel vision, because I'll tell you, tunnel vision isn't bad at times, Jonathan, because you want to get the puck to the net. It's better than, I'll give you this analogy. It's better than playing around the perimeter and just passing the puck around the perimeter and never getting inside. So you've got a good problem because the good problem, no, I'm serious. I'm being serious. It's a good problem because they want to attack the net. And a lot of kids don't want to attack the net now because they want to make the TSN, the Sportsnet highlight plays, real plays, backdoor, back post plays. They see that and they want to emulate that. Oh, I can make that play. But they never put the puck to the net. So the puck never gets to the net. They miss all these opportunities. And as a coach, you're sitting there going, shoot the puck. Just get the puck to the net. Now you've just got to expand on that. So now you got to say, okay, I got to make two passes. I got to make one pass to my partner. If it's a 2-on-2, I got one pass to my partner. The puck might never get to the net, but at least you're playing a game of keep away where you've got to get one pass, two passes before you can shoot. And one pass has to be to your outlet up top, and the other pass has to be to the partner that you're playing with. So it's about trying to find ice. It's about creating space. It's about finding that ice. And it could be, you can do it from the blue line down. You can do it a little tighter area. So now where it's tighter, there's a little more bumping. There might be a little more contact. Now you got to create that space and how you create that space. Okay. So I think that might help them knowing if you put parameters on it. You got to make one pass. You got to make one pass before that puck hits the net. And you can do it on drills too. You can say 2-on-1. I got to make one pass, but that pass can't come at the net. It's got to come somewhere early inside the blue line. You can make minimum one. You can make 7. I don't care, but you got to make minimum of one pass before that puck hits the net. And then it forces them to try and don't lose their speed. You don't want to lose that side of it because once they start looking for a pass, their feet just plant and then all of a sudden they're tripods and they get caught from behind. Okay.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks a lot.
My pleasure.
All right, Jamie, I think you got the room warmed up now. So get into the meat of stuff here. I'll just give the floor to you and you run with it here.
Okay. Well, first off, I just, we got going on this and I just wanted to say thank you very much, Dave, for the kind words. I've just been very fortunate to be around some real good people and to learn from some real good people. So I am where I am because of that. And also the fact that I have never worked a day in my life because I love what I do. I have a real passion. I'm driven to do this. And I know this is important. And I know this is important. I've done a lot of Zoom calls throughout this time period. And I think it's important that we give back. And especially in this era where you have this ability to talk to people, you have this ability to share. When I was growing up, I never had an opportunity to talk to anyone about coaching. It's what I learned. I talked to former coaches, but the former coaches were parents, or the former coach was, an ex-teammate. So this forum here, it's about giving back. It's about trying to help everyone along the way because everyone has aspirations and dreams, and whether it's to be in the NHL or whether it's to be a skills coach or a referee or what have you, or be the best you can be in your area. I think that, and that's important. So I just, I want you to know that I'll answer all questions. I'm not going to leave anyone hanging here on questions, but I know these are real challenging times. And I know with this right now, I think it's really important for, if you haven't done so already, and I'm sure you have, is the connection you have with your players. And no matter if you're coaching the youngest players or junior players, it's about staying connected with them, especially during this time. It's a real trying time. It's a hard time. Some young kids are obviously, withdrawals. I know I'm going through withdrawals, and I'm not a young kid anymore, but it's the whole idea is that you stay connected, whether it's through Zoom, whether it's through a group chat, whether you get on Zoom with them once, twice a week, just to check in, see how they're doing. Have a trivia night, have a hockey quiz night, ask them each to bring a question, and you can all discuss it. And I think it's important that you keep them engaged in that side of it, and you keep their hockey mind, and you keep that side of it sharp. And it's not talking about systems or anything like that. It's talking about the NHL and who they like and who they emulate, and who you think they should play like, maybe, or just a trivia night where you talk about different players, or talk about players that came out of your area, or what their aspirations are, where they want to go. This is a real good time to connect with them on a personal level, as opposed to just being at the rink with them and connecting them on the ice. So I think there's different ways on that. But I'm assuming that most of you are doing that. I can only hope that you are, because again, it's really important. It is really important that those young players know that you care. And that's important. That today's game is not about a dictatorship. When I played, it was a dictatorship. The coach said, jump. You said, how high? He said, put a hole in the end board. You said, how big do you want it? That's the way it was. You didn't question the coach. In today's game, it's a partnership. You're working with them to make them better players and better people. And in turn, they're learning from you. You're giving them something. You're giving them something to enhance not only their skills on the ice, but their skills off the ice. So when you get back, so what I do want to talk about is getting back on the ice. So that first practice and what it's going to look like for you, because I know everyone's excited. You've been off the ice for some time now, with the restrictions and everything like that. And now, Dave, I'm not sure what the grouping is. We can talk about it after, and how many players are allowed on the ice, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the biggest thing is that you're not trying to get it back all in one practice. Because I know that everyone's just dying. They're chomping at the bit going, I got to get out there. I got to do this, this, and this. And halfway through the practice, the kids are like, holy crying out loud, I'm exhausted. And these young kids are going, I can't take this. And, so I think there's got to be a buildup. In the game, you got to remember, it is about the fundamentals. It's all about getting them back on the ice, having them feel the puck, having them handle the puck, having them get up and down the ice, having them pass to each other, having them get in a group where they have to stick handle, or the younger kids, conditioning isn't a problem for them. It's not a big issue. They're getting back on the ice. Don't worry about systems. It's not like you're playing the next night. Okay. It's not about, your first couple practices shouldn't be about the systems. It should be getting them back together, getting them back and running practices where you get them up and down the ice, where they get to feel the puck, where they're challenged somewhat in a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-2 or a 3-on-3. It doesn't have to be 5-on-5 hockey. And then the other side of it is that the older kids, you get them warmed up, and then you design drills to say to them, hey, listen, I know your conditioning isn't where it wants to be. We're going to push for 20 minutes. And then you time it, and you get these 3 drills down, and they've got to do it for 20 minutes, and they go hard. Because at the end, they're going to be pacing themselves, because you actually are thinking about skating them at the end. Well, they don't have to skate. You just let them know that it's 20 minutes that they're going to skate hard. And then at the end of it, play a game with them. Because you know what? All their competitive juices come out in the game. At times, for us at the NHL level, Paul and I will look at each other and go, why didn't we just play this game off the bat? Because that 10 minutes was more productive than those 20 minutes that we just wasted trying to get up and down the ice. Because their competitive juices will come out. They're proud. They want it. They want to win. They want to have bragging rights, even if it's over a silly game, but they want to play. They want to compete against each other. And that compete goes higher and higher at every time we play, because there are ramifications. It's either picking up the pucks or doing 2 laps, and no one wants to be embarrassed. So I think it's really important that those first couple of practices, you get them back into that. The older kids, you can do different things with them. You can challenge them, but you don't have to get right into systems. Systems are systems. They're gonna do them, but they've got to get something else out of it. You got to get them up and down the ice. You got to get them feeling the puck. You got to get them touching the puck. You got to get them in those tight areas, because that's what the game's all about, those tight area situations. Like I said, 75 to 85% of the game is played on the outside. So getting them down in those dirty areas, getting them to get first touch, how to hang on to pucks, how to protect pucks, all those things, those are really important. And, I touched on it earlier, and I think that, when you get to the NHL, and the one thing is Joel Quenneville hired me. I was fortunate enough to be hired by Joel Quenneville a long time ago, 1997. And he said to me, he goes, never assume these players know, because they don't. They think they know, but they don't. And that's the one thing is because they're your best players, challenge them. They need to be coached. They need to be taught. They need to be told, yes, this is right. No, this is not right. Yes, this is acceptable. No, this is not acceptable. Because the best players are the best players because they work at their game. They want to stay on top. Why are these guys still on top year after year after year after year? These same players are on top because they're great players. They work at their game. They're challenged. They want to be challenged every day. Just because they're a great player doesn't mean they can't be coached. Because remember, a great player on your team means he might be the 10,000th or 50,000th best player in their age category around the world. So it doesn't mean that they're that good. It means that they still have to be coached and taught. So you got to make sure that you push those guys and push them outside their comfort level so they continue to get better, because everyone's going to end up catching up to you eventually, and they all end up flattening out. But what makes good players great players is the consistency of what they do and how they execute game in and game out, shift in and shift out, practice in and practice out, drill in and drill out. And that's really important. And then on the other side of it, it's not only about us, like as coaches, we're not only there to make them better hockey players. We got a lot of young players in Winnipeg. We've had a lot of young players come through in my 4 years, going into my 5th year here. And I've been around a lot of young players, those young players that we developed in LA, that we got them over the hurdle, got them over that hump to get them to where they needed to get to win 2 Stanley Cups. It's important that you make sure that you take the time to make sure they're doing the right things, and they're respecting you, and they're treating people the way you want or they want to be treated. And that's really important. And personally, I don't swear. So for me, I don't swear, and they kind of make fun of it. Oh, I say frick, and they kind of make fun of it. It's our ongoing joke. But anytime they ask for something, I say, thank you, please, thank you, or I'll ask them for something. And in turn, it's forcing them to do the same thing. And I try and make sure that, we're trying to represent the Winnipeg Jets in the best possible light. And in turn, these kids I don't have kids, so they're my kids. So I make sure that I'm doing the right things for them so that they're treating people the right way. And they're going out on the ice and doing the right things, but also off the ice, they're treating the people the way they want to be treated. So the last thing I'm going to say is the one thing that Paul Marie said to me a while ago, and this is for older guys and the older players, that coaching older players, is that he said, it's important that today's youth gets a job. And I said, really? He goes, yeah, absolutely. Because if they get a job and they're really serious about what they're doing and where they want to get to with their hockey, then they're going to work at it. They're going to work at their job. They're going to earn their money. They're not living off mom and dad anymore. They got a little bit of pocket change. And now they've got to work out, because if they really want to get to where they need to get to, they're going to have to push. They're going to have to come up with a scenario. They're going to have to come up with a compromise. So it's either before work they're going to work out, or after work they're going to work out. And that in turn will help them be that much more prepared when it's time to try out or go somewhere, because they've been through it. As opposed to the guy that's sitting on the couch playing video games till 2 a.m, getting up at 11, going to see his personal trainer, working out for 2 hours, and then coming home, getting a nap, and then playing video games till 2 a.m. He's already got that discipline of a job. He already knows what he's getting out of everything. And I think that was a real important piece of advice that Paul said to me when I was talking on these Zoom calls. And you know what? It resonated with me. And some of you might say, yeah, okay, this is COVID times. I understand that. But once we get out of this, I think there's some value into that when you sit back and reflect upon it. So with that, I'll open it up. Dave, I know that you sent me something here. You said each district is no more than 50 in any given building and 20 at any given building. Yeah, so we were a little different. Like we're only allowed to have, I think, 12 guys on the ice right now. Like for us at the NHL level, we're only allowed to have 12. And we haven't even got all our guys in through quarantine yet. So we're still working on that. But once we don't know what the protocol is going to look like, but I know they had 12 players at one point and 10 players, and then they had 10 players in one end, 10 players in the other, so a maximum of 20. You couldn't all be in the same room. So there are some trying times, but the biggest thing is that you can get through it because you can do everything in small areas. You can do everything with 2 or 3 people. You don't need 10 people on the ice. You don't need to play 5-on-5 hockey, because it is all about your 1-on-1s and your 1-on-2s and your 2-on-2s and your 3-on-3s. So, okay.
I got to ask you about how you mind your tongue and don't swear. I mean, I think we all would say for coaches that we get pushed to some limits here, and I'm not going to say I haven't myself, but can you elaborate? You don't really have to if it's personal philosophy, but is there a reason why you choose that, and how do you physically mind that tongue? Because man, it's tough sometimes, and there's some kids that when let's say that they make it, seems like anyway. I want to say some really not nice words, but how do you, and maybe, hey, if even Grace blows that call, I'm not saying you do this, Grace, but hey, there's got to be those times even with a referee. So how do you manage your language there?
Well, I have a great ally because Mark Scheifele doesn't swear, so him and I are on the same page. So we say frick, and that's as close as it comes. It's been a long time for me. I haven't touched wood. I haven't slipped up in quite some time. I'm very cognizant. Frick, yeah, it's, you know, the meaning of it, but it's rather than the alternative. But one day this was when I first got in the league, and you know, I swore, everything like that. And then probably about 4 or 5 years in, I took a step back, and we were sitting at a table, and I was listening to somebody talk, and it was F this and F that and screw this and the stuff that was coming out of their mouth. And it was at a dinner table in a dining room, and I was just kind of at a restaurant. I was kind of taken aback by that, and I said, I bet you I sound like that. That's embarrassing. Like, I was embarrassed for that table. I was embarrassed for that person. And then I started to say, well, that's me. That could be me. Somebody's saying that about me. And that's not the way I want to carry myself. That's not who I am. And that's not what I represent. And that's not, I don't ever want to have that come up. And so it took a long time. I'm not going to lie to you. It took a long time and a lot of willpower, but I'm comfortable with not swearing now. It's been probably 18, 19 years now. And so it's been good. It's been good for me. It's worked for me. Might not work for everybody, but I just don't want to be that guy. I don't feel that I'm that guy. And it's funny because they know, some of my friends know I don't swear. So they'll swear in front of me. Oh, sorry about that. I didn't. And I'm like, don't worry about it. I don't care. You say what you want. It's not going to affect me or what I think of you. You know, you're my friend. I'm not gonna think any differently of you, but that's just a personal.
So that's super interesting. My next question was, what effect have you seen have that on other people? And obviously there's people taking notice and trying to mind their own behavior there, but over 18 years, things change. But what have you seen as a tangible change in your players, how they respond to you, things like that, because of that little tidbit of philosophy?
Well, I think like a lot, like the players, especially like coaches, kind of, they laugh. They sometimes they won't even swear. They don't swear in front of me, but you know, I said, guys, just, you know, you can say whatever you want. I really don't care. It doesn't bother me. It's not like it doesn't affect what I do or how I act or how I treat you. It's not gonna, nothing happens like that, but it's more so with the players. You know, I just try and always make sure that I'm very professional, but at the same time, I want them to know that I care about them, that I think that's the biggest thing, is you show them you care. In today's game, it's different. It's different. I've never had a coach like me that would actually talk to a player, show a player video day after day, and have a conversation with them, have them like, that's the relationship side of it. That's the personal relationship you have to get to in today's player, because you got to know what makes them tick. So that's what makes our job exciting at the NHL level, because every day you come in and it's a new challenge. I jump out of bed. I now don't have to hit the snooze button. I just jump out of bed. I'm excited about what challenges are going to be I'm faced with today. Who's going to be pissed off? Who's not going to be pissed off? Who's going to be in a good mood? How am I going to talk to them? What do I have to show this player today? How can I get to this player? What do I have to talk to this player about? So it's exciting. And in turn, when I do that, I always try and remember my words. I think the words that come out of my mouth are very important, and I select the words carefully for each player, and each player is different. So I might use a set of language for this player, and I might use a set of language for this player. So everybody's different, and you got to find out what makes them tick.
So guys, we can get back to the Q&A here. If you have a question, you can raise your virtual hand. You can turn off your mic, or turn on your mic and speak up. Put it in the chat if you like. You can formulate your next question, or maybe I'll just jump in here, Jamie. And how did you bridge the gap between your playing days? You finished overseas or in Germany and the East Coast League, and would you ever have imagined at that point, as a quote unquote minor league player, that you'd be eventually, having your name on the Stanley Cup twice with the two best teams maybe of our era? Or like, can you just talk about your path from the transition, I guess, your life after playing and then getting into coaching, and how it got to where you are now?
Well, everybody wants to play. That's the most, that was the biggest thing. Everyone wanted to, you always, as a kid, you're playing boot hockey and you want to lift the Stanley Cup. You want to hoist the Stanley Cup. You want to, you scored the game-winning goal on Saturday down at the outdoor rink, and you were pretending to hoist the Stanley Cup as a young kid. And so, when you get to that level where, yeah, okay, I'm good enough, I can play, but how much am I going to play? Or how many years am I going to play? And where am I going to get to? So when I graduated university, with an education degree, a private boys' school, Loyola High School, came knocking and asked me if I'd be interested in teaching math, phys ed, and run the hockey program. I said, no, I want to play hockey. So I went and played. Second year, same thing happened. They approached me again. I said, nope. And then after my third year, I was like, okay, I better listen to them. I'll go in for an interview. And I'm like, okay, I could probably still play, but where's that going to get me? Is they're going to get me this opportunity here where I'm putting my degree to use. I'm going to play hockey. I'm going to coach hockey. I'm going to coach math. I'm going to coach phys ed. And it's all done at a private boys' school. I got the rink right next door to me. I got everything. And so I said, I'm going to dive in. And it didn't, it was hard for me because I still, in the summer, I trained with all the guys. I'd skate with all of them. They're going to training camp, and I'm in as good a shape as they're in. And they're going, where are you going? I'm going back to school. And they're like, going back to school? Why don't you come try it? And I'm like, no, made this commitment. So after 5 years of doing that and coaching university at the same time, because Jean Pronovo was my head coach my last year at university, and he asked me if I would help the university team at the same time I was doing the high school team. And it worked out because we were practicing from 3 to 5 at the high school, and then from 5:30 to 7 or 7:30, I'd practice with the McGill team. So it worked out great. I learned a lot, and it was a tough 5 years teaching and juggling 2 hockey teams and trying to be successful at both. And then after 5 years, I just said, you know what? There's something more out there for me. The one thing that my dad told me, and I told you this before, Dave, is that if you don't like what you do, change it. He told me that one day when I was struggling with what to do, renewing my contract for my 6th year, and I had tenure at the private boys' school. And he just said, Jamie, if you don't like what you do, change it, because only you can change it. And I thought about that, and I said, you know what? I'm quitting. That's it. And so I quit, and I've been doing hockey schools for a number of years, and I did hockey schools all that summer, and they asked me, and they knew what my plan was, and I had already was going down to the Baltimore area to run a rink down there, but that kind of fell through. But I hooked up with the Baltimore Bandits of the American League, the Anaheim Mighty Ducks farm team, and I got an opportunity there to be an assistant coach and work with them. And their general manager at the time was Jack Ferrara, who ended up being our special assistant to the general manager in LA. So Jack and I go way back. And anyway, I got an opportunity there, and it was the best time. I just had the greatest time. And then during the summer, I did hockey schools again. And Paul Fixter, who was the video coach in Colorado, was Joel Quenneville, was an assistant in Colorado when he won his first cup. And Joel had just taken over in St. Louis, and he was looking for a video coach. So Paul said to me, he goes, "Hey, Joel Quenneville's going to talk to you, and you'll probably get hired by him." And I'm like, I don't know anything about video. I have no idea. I just know the game. I don't have any idea about, video or anything. And that's back in the VHS days. And he goes, "Just go for the interview." And that's how I ended up getting the opportunity with Joel, and starting in 97 in St. Louis. So the rest, it's just about, learning your craft, getting better, make sure you're working at it. And I got a great teacher in Roger Nielsen, Joel Quenneville, and Jimmy Roberts. That's how I started off. And the rest is kind of history. It's what you make out of it.
Can you, I just want to elaborate a little bit, because man, have you coached alongside some of the most, highly touted coaches we've had. I mean, Quenneville, I've already mentioned, Daryl Sutter, like I said, and I don't, just because it's my favorite team, it's not a thing, but Daryl brought a team that had done nothing for a long time, and as an 8th seed, and you were there, brought them to the chat. Like that's a big deal. And obviously then even with Winnipeg now with Paul Maurice, can you talk about, because we've got a lot of assistant coaches on here, I'm sure, and some head coaches too, but your role in being the maybe the good cop or the bad cop, or I don't know what the playbook is there, but how you play off those guys in your role, and maybe how you guys work as a group with those guys.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that when Daryl came on, we had a real good team in LA. We did. It started off Dean Lombardi. So I'm going to go back on this, Dave, because Dean Lombardi he built the San Jose Sharks, and the San Jose Sharks have been competitive for the last 15 years up until the last year. They've been competitive because of the foundation that Dean built there. And there's a method to his madness. So when I got there, we were a very bad hockey team. And first to admit, he wanted to strip it down, rebuild it. We had Anze Kopitar, we had Dustin Brown, we had some pieces. There was no question we had pieces. But at the end of the day, we had some aging veterans that we were he wanted to draft and develop. And that was the big thing. If you look at San Jose, that's all they did. They drafted and developed. How'd they get Joe Thornton? Well, they traded for him, and they gave up 3 assets, but 3 assets that they drafted and developed. And that was the big thing about Dean. So Dean wanted a game plan on how we were going to develop these young players. And, we got Kyle Clifford, Wayne Simmons, Oscar Moeller at the time was with us, Braden Shen, Jack Johnson, who we traded for, Drew Doughty, Trevor Lewis. The list goes on, Jordan Nolan, Dwight King, all these players. So what ends up happening is we get to a certain stage where you've developed these young players, you need some veteran players. So we trade Lubomir Visnovsky to Edmonton for Jarrett Stoll and Matt Green, 2 real good glue guys. Yeah, okay, everyone can say what they want about Matt Green, but I'll tell you something, he's one of our leaders in that dressing room. He got the guys jacked up. He did whatever it took to win a game. He did whatever it took. Jarrett Stoll, they had been there. They had lost in the finals in Game 7 at Carolina, so they both had been there before. And so that was important, getting that piece. Trading, yeah, we traded Wayne Simmons and Braden Shen, but we got a Mike Richards, which was huge for us. Captain, inspirational guy that can help us score. We traded Patrick O'Sullivan to get Justin Williams, who's Mr. Game 7, who's won numerous cups because of what he's capable of doing and what he did for our hockey team. And then finally getting that other piece, we drafted Vladislav Voyanov, and we had him up during the year. and right-handed defenseman. So when Drew Doughty went down, we had him up, and we knew what we had in him, but we couldn't keep him up because he was going to be our 7th D. So what did we do? We traded Jack Johnson in a first rounder, and everyone's saying, well, you lost Jack Johnson in a first rounder for Jeff Carter. But that wasn't the thing. It was, we got Voyanov up in that deal. So we actually got Jeff Carter and Voyanov. So we got a lefty righty on all our pairs. So with that team, we were built to go. We were built that 6th year. We were ready to go. And Terry Murray did an unbelievable job getting us to that stage. We just needed something else. When Daryl came in, he pushed buttons. He challenged guys. He did a lot of things that were unconventional. And he barked at guys that didn't think that they were to be barked at. And so there was a good cop, bad cop. And it was from a little bit of Mike Keenan. And he learned from Mike. And it was, you know what? He's going to ride guys. And he's going to ride his best players because he wants more from them. He wants more. He demands more. He expects more. And in turn, they gave more. And they knew they had more to give. And in turn, we were the ones that made sure that we kept them on the straight and narrow. We kept them between the lines, that anytime that they started to wane, we made sure that, hey, you're going. We're following this guy. He's been there. He hasn't won, but we're going to get there with him. And I think that that was really important, that we kept on that. And he, you know, for me, it was different because it was myself, John Stevens, and Bill Ranford. And John and I, we would do all the video. I prepared all the video for all the meetings. And Daryl was the guy. He just said, okay, I want you to present. You're presenting all pregame meetings. You're presenting, doing all postgame meetings. I'm just there. I'm watching what you're saying. And he had a method to his madness too, because he'd call me out in the video. He'd yell, he goes, hey, what are you doing there? What's that all about? Go back on that. And it was to make sure that he challenged me, but I knew what he was doing because he wanted to make sure that everybody was paying attention. That was important. That clip was important. And he wanted to make sure that that clip was important. And he kept everyone on their toes. And in turn, I know it's your favorite team, and I know that I was part of it, but I don't, like, people don't remember that we're the 8th seed. We go in and we go up 3-0 in every series. And that's 2 on the road to start and 1 at home. And as good as teams are today, I really, really don't know if there's going to be any team that ever does that or repeats that again, because that was quite an accomplishment when you look back on it. And I'm not saying that because I was part of it, but I'm saying that because that's hard to do. Go into another team's building, especially Vancouver, when they're the #1 seed, and knock them off the first 2 games, and then go back for game 5 and win in overtime. And then go into St. Louis and win 4 straight, win 2 in their building, and go into Arizona, and their place was rock, and they didn't have many fans during the year, but in playoffs, everyone was there. And there were a lot of LA fans, but going in there and winning 3 games in their building, you know, it's pretty special. And going into Jersey in the finals and winning the first 2 games, and then winning the game at home and then losing 2. And everyone talks about adversity. Well, the adversity that you guys are facing now because you lost 2 games, and a reporter asked me that question, and I said, adversity, have you followed our game? Have you followed our team? You know, we start off like a house on fire. Next thing you know, our coach gets fired. We have John Stevens for 3 games. And then we come and get Daryl. We make the playoffs on the last week of the season. We have to win 2 of our last 3 games to make the playoffs. We're the 8th seed. You want to talk about adversity? This is nothing. Don't worry about losing 2 games. We'll be fine. And we ended up 6-1 in the final game. So, you know, it's a balancing act. With Paul, I have a little different relationship because Paul and I see the game, and it's not that Daryl and I don't see the game the same way. It's just Paul and I have the same vision. We almost finish each other's sentences. He's a very deep thinker, and we get on the same page in terms of how the game should be played and how we need to play the game and how we need to get the most out of our players. We got a real good staff with Charlie Huddy and Dave Lowry now. So it's exciting coming up on this year. And I really enjoy, I've learned so much from Paul. I'm very fortunate that he gave me the opportunity here in Winnipeg, because I keep growing every day. I want to learn something more, and I'm excited because he's one of those coaches that pushes you to make you better every day. He makes you think about outside the box and challenges you in different ways.
I just back to LA, and I won't harp on it, but I don't think anyone objectively can look like that and not be impressed. You don't have, it doesn't be your favorite team to acknowledge that. But Let me ask you this, as an assistant coach and associate coach in this case now, but those guys we already mentioned, how, we talk a lot about mentorship now, and exactly what you're doing right now. But, you know, as an assistant, as an associate, whatever you have, how have some of your best head coaches mentored you? How have they brought you along? And the second part of that is then how, this is kind of unrelated, but talk a little bit about personality management. For every Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane you've coached, you've also coached a Dwight King and a Patrick O'Sullivan or something like that. But there's always that question of how you get 17 completely different personalities on the same page, whether they're do you leave the stars right alone? Do you kind of give those third or fourth line guys a little more motivation? But two very different questions there. I'm sorry, but I don't know if you can speak to either of those points.
Well, I think the first one you talked about, the mentorship. I think the big thing is that for me is when I started out in the league, I never played at the NHL level. So you had to get that, you had to earn your respect. And how do you earn your respect? By your work. And, you know, I know everyone on this call would love to have my job, and I'm going to make sure that I'm sorry about saying this, but I'm making sure that no one's going to get my job because I'm going to outwork you. I'm going to make sure that no one's going to ever say that I never wasn't prepared, or I wasn't prepared for the job that I had, or I'm never going to be outworked in that sense, because that's something I can control. I control that. And I'm going to make sure that I'm the most prepared coach, and I'm the best prepared in terms of what I have to do. The other side of that is that as a head coach, you've got to delegate. You've got to be able to delegate and give rope to your assistants. And that's what's great about Joel and Daryl and all the coaches, Terry Murray, Mark Crawford, all those coaches that I worked with, you know, Paul Maurice, everyone, Mike Kitchen, they all gave me the opportunity to learn, and they gave me something, and I just kept, I want more. But it wasn't that I went to them and asked for more. They saw that I could do more, and I kept on taking on opportunities and jobs and things that, you know, I could never say no, because I don't want to say no. I want to learn everything. I had a real close relationship with Larry Plow, the GM. He'd come down to my office every game day in St. Louis for 9 years, every game day. And he'd go, before he went and worked out, he'd always come in and we'd talk for about 40 minutes. And he'd talk to me about hockey. And I kept up his depth charts and everything like that. And he always made sure that I had a connection with him. And at one point, I think about year 5 or year 6, he said to me, he goes, would you ever want to come on, be my assistant? Would you ever want to get in the management side? And I said, sorry, I love being down on the ice. I love being around that. He goes, hey, I'm just giving you the option. And I really appreciated that, because I wanted to learn from him and to listen to what he had to say. He'd talk for 40 minutes. I just sit there and listen. And it was just, it was getting my master's degree. And I never even recognized it at the time until, you know, you sit back and you reflect on it and go, wow, that was a good tidbit. Wow, that was good. And he just kept on giving you more. And with delegating, you get more responsibility, and you never want to let anyone down. And the last person you're going to let down is yourself. So it's really important that you continue to push yourself to that limit. Even if you don't know it, you got to work through it. You got to try and problem solve. So by that, you have a voice. And the head coaches always gave their assistants, the people that I've worked with have always given their assistants an opportunity to have a voice. And whether it's right or wrong, they wouldn't just dismiss it and go, that's no good. Hey, they consider everything. And it's really important that you make you feel a part of it. And that's how you grow as a coach, and that's how you're going to get better. And now I hope I answered that question for you, Dave, that in that regard.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I just think, you know, I'm a head coach myself of a U15 team, and I've got a really young assistant coach, and he's just gone through development 1 this year. And so I'm trying my best to activate him, to get him to do drills, to have a voice, all those things. So I just was curious about maybe some strategies our guys on this call maybe could use with their own staff. So I appreciate that answer. Thank you.
Yeah. And then the other side of it is you got 20 different personalities and 23 different personalities. And I think I said this before, that the top players, Blake Wheeler, I'll tell you right now, there's no one that works at their game harder than Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele. Those guys take 50 pucks, 50 to 100 pucks every day, rims, forehand, backhand, picking pucks up, moving their feet before they touch the puck, picking pucks up, making plays, picking pucks up, attacking the net, picking pucks up in the middle of the ice, just different planes, trying to find guys, you know, the cutbacks, the plays on the wall, the hard area plays. Those guys do it. I bet you they do 100 pucks every day, and I'm the one that's rimming the pucks to them. I'm the one rimming it to their forehand, rimming it to their backhand. They're picking pucks up. Those things are critical to them. Why? Because they want to stay on top. They want to have that edge. They want to make sure. So if there's something that I can point out, if there's something that I can work with those guys, yeah, if you got a good one-timer, yeah, you're not going to practice your one-timer. Work on something that they need help on. You want to get 3 extra minutes of ice time? Work on the walls. Get your board work done. Get it done right, because 1 minute at the end of the first period, 1 minute at the end of the second period, 1 minute at the end of the game, there's 3 extra minutes of ice time you're going to get if you're good on the walls. Because that's one thing. Paul comes over to me, he goes, who's the best guy on the boards tonight? Well, obviously it's Blake Wheeler's number one. And then is Kyle Connor having a good night? Or is it Andrew Kopp? Is it Adam Lowry going to play left wing? Or do we have to move Mark Scheifele to left wing because Adam Lowry is going to take the face off? So all those little things, I think it's really important that you push your star players. They've got to be pushed because they're the leaders. They've got to, you know, hey, we were fortunate. We got Blake Wheeler. He's front of every line. He works the hardest. There's no question. And I'm talking, he does everything 100 miles an hour. There's no pace in his game. There's no slowdown. It's going 100 miles an hour and you jump on his back. In Chicago, we had some great leaders. Jonathan Toews. Everyone talks about Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane, he wants to be the first in line. He wants to do everything hard. He wants a game like Duncan Keith, Marian Hossa. These guys were all at the front of every time we went. They wanted to go. Dustin Byfuglien in Winnipeg, when he was there, everyone talks about Buff being a fun-loving guy. He always went against the best players. Always. He went against Mark Scheifele. He went against Blake Wheeler. Any 3-on-2s, he went against the top lines. Brian Little, Patrick Laine, Nick Ehlers, because he didn't want those guys to have any easy ice. He wanted to make it tough on them, but he wanted to challenge himself. And practice, he practiced hard. He was all business in practice. He practiced hard. He had a pace to it, tempo to it. LA, Anze Kopitar, Justin Williams, all those guys pushed themselves. So we have good leaders. Everyone else falls into line. If you can't work as hard as him, why are you out here? He's your captain. Jump on his back, follow his lead. And I think that that's really important. They set the example. They're the pace car and they want to get better. So you've got to encourage them and push them outside their comfort zone, the star players. In turn, that pushes your lesser skilled players, or maybe your players that strive to be like them. It pushes them outside their comfort level to try and keep up. And I think that that's really important. And then they play to their identity and they push themselves outside of their identity a little bit also. So, you know, in terms of talking to them and how you treat them, it's fundamentals. They've got to get, these things are important. What are your anchors of your game? What are the anchors of the Winnipeg Jets? This is what we judge our game on. And you're going to fall into one of those categories where there's no gray area. It's black and white. You've got to do this right. Otherwise, you're not going to get on the ice when you need to. So just because you're a star player doesn't mean you're going to get star minutes. You got to earn the star minutes.
Awesome. So I got a question from the group here. Craig asks, it's about team building. So what kind of team building things do you do at your level, first of all, and that we could use the minor hockey level perhaps with our teams, especially right now? COVID related is everything pretty challenging to go and do a bunch of things as a group or in public, but do you have any things that you guys that do at your level that could translate to the minor hockey level as far as team building goes? You kind of mentioned already with Zoom stuff, but maybe you got some other ones up your sleeve.
Well, I think with our team, it's a little different because we spend so much time together. I think we've done, you know, we have a couple of things we were going to try and do this year, but obviously that's out of the water because we got to follow these new protocols, everything like that. But when we did have those games, we'd have the best of 5. Any 2-on-2 or small area games, we keep the same teams. We'd have, you know, best of 3, best of 5, and then they'd have to buy lunch. So, you know, everyone goes out for lunch together, whether it's at home or on the road. We had when they got off the plane, instead of doing a stretch, they all wanted to go and meet. So they'd meet down in the lobby, and whether it was whoever's hometown it was or close to the hometown, they had to pick a spot to go and maybe get an adult beverage or a soda or whatever, and just hang out for an hour and just hang out. That was, part of the captain's role. He said, this is what we want to do. And it worked great. Like, it worked great for our team, because then that way everyone's not going back to their hotel room right after they get to the plane. You got to get in, you got to get your bags down. You're down in the hotel lobby. Everyone's down in the hotel lobby in 15 minutes, and you walk to the place you're going to, or you take an Uber. And that really worked well, because the team really bonds with that. And, different things where we go on the road, it might be movie night, it might be poker night. We get a room for them. They say, we got a day off the next day, we're going to play poker. Okay, well, we'll get your room. So we got a room for them so they can have a poker tournament. So those things. But, when you go on Zoom, I think it's not a bad idea. You can have a trivia. Everyone, write down their answers to their questions, or have groups, or they can come up with their own questions and do some sort of a trivia night with your players, and trying, something that you don't know about this player, or just a connection with the player. They've got to write down something that everyone knows and something that somebody doesn't know. And I think that's important. And they can have two players present. One player presents about your other player. The other player presents about the other player. So there's two guys together, and then they've got to connect. So that means whether they're Zooming, or whether they're FaceTiming, or whether they're texting, or whatever they're doing, they're in it together. I think it's important that during these trying times, you find different ways to do things, whether they can do a video together and they can splice it together. These kids are they're way more technically advanced than I'll speak for myself, than I'll ever be with the things they can do on a computer. They can do some sort of a play on word, or like a play or something, a video stream of him and his buddy, and they don't even have to be in the same room. They can just splice it separately. So little things like that to make sure, and the guys get a kick out of it too, and they'll remember things like that. And when they get back together, it's a talking point for them, as opposed to that talking point in the dressing room. It might be a talking point on a Zoom call, where everybody's got to present a video of the two or three guys that they talk about. So
I'm curious about this as well, and the times that we are able to be on the ice these days generally are skill development, stuff like that. And you already mentioned this on the guys who are doing the half wall pickups. What's at your level? What's the preferred strategy? Is there one that's best? Are guys still sticking their heel against the boards and waiting for it to kick up? Is there a spinning around? And I'm just throwing out the old school ideas.
Yeah.
But what are you guys doing? What's the most effective wall pickup strategy, and what are you teaching at your level?
Well, I think it's different. Like, we've got a bunch of different ideas, but I think the biggest thing is if you can take off from that skate, you get on your stick right away. That's the most important thing. That's one less variable that you have. Some people, they can't control their skates. Younger players can't control their skates. To get that skate to stick, it takes a pretty special player that can kick that puck up and get it on the right angle every time, and not get that bounce on the boards. If they can eliminate that and get it right on their stick, we kind of discourage. If you have to use your skate, you have to use your skate. If you're creating a scrum puck, you got nowhere to go. You're being squeezed off by the soft lock guy, and there's a D pinching down. You got nowhere to go. You're going to eat that puck. So if you're eating it with your skates, you're eating it with your skates. You're eating it with your stick. You're eating it with your stick. But you're not passing your problems off to someone else, or you're not trying to chip the puck up the boards. But I think a lot of it is to try and get that puck off the boards as quick as possible. And the quickest way to get it off the boards is with your stick in your hands, because that's going to control your next play. That's going to make your next play. If it's off your skate, well, then you've got to locate it the next play. So now you've got to take it from your skate to your stick. And to get it from your skate to your stick, that's another step. So now you've done 2 steps as opposed to 1 step to make that next play. And we do a lot of board work, and that's a critical area, because you can actually say to yourself right now, if you're a coach and look back and get pissed off at the guy that didn't get the puck out in the last minute of your game, and then look back on it and go, why are you mad at him? Or why are you mad at any players? Have you practiced it? Have you physically practiced it in a practice where you rim a puck to start a breakout? and you pull that puck off the boards under any kind of pressure. Let's say no pressure to start, and then there's some sort of pressure. Have you ever practiced that? So how could you be mad at the player for not executing when you've never practiced it? So I think that's really important. You got to take a step back and go, okay, so with Paul Maurice, he's very open to component teaching where it's small areas. So maybe it's 2 players, maybe it's 1 player, maybe it's 3 players, but all these little components, you don't have to do a 5-man breakout. You can do a 3-man breakout. You can do a 2-man breakout. You can get that D going back for a puck, popping it through the middle of the ice. And I think that that's really important, that you break the game down to simplest skills before you say there's 5 guys. Because if you do a 5-man breakout, it's going D up to the middle. And then that winger, if he's a left-handed, is passing. If he's a left-handed centerman, he's passing to the right winger. He's not going on his backhand to pass to the left winger. So maybe you only get 1 touch going up and down the ice. So why not have the D go back for the puck a couple times, pass to the centerman, center passes to the right winger, then he passes it again to the centerman passes to the left winger. And then D goes back again, passes to the centerman, they go down and take a shot. So little things like that that you can create so that they do get that confidence. Or the D gets in, rims the puck, and that forward's got to pick the puck up off the boards and pass it inside to the centerman. All those little things in practice, those are important. Those are important skills that I think that just go, they get overlooked because there's other things you want to get to with your team systems. But those things are more important than your team system at the end of the day, because that's going to win you and lose you a game late in the game situation.
Awesome. That's fascinating. I got a question from Alan here. Alan asks, what do you recommend when trying to get the most out of your, for lack of a better term, weaker players? I find sometimes that when doing the drills, they can have the attitude that they aren't the greatest at that drill or a game situation, and they'll just respond, well, I'll never get there. I'm just not very good at it. So maybe players who haven't developed the confidence, how do you, and have a certain perception of themselves, how do you get them to think a little more highly of themselves and become a better player so they are more effective and contribute to your team success? Well,
That's a great question. I think it can be done a couple different ways. I think positive reinforcement and making sure that when he does it right, or he does do it right, you reward him or say, hey, that's a heck of a job, and you do it in front of everyone. So everyone knows that he did a good job. And the second side of that is that, is there a chance where it's either before practice or after practice, you just take him and work on that skill, whatever he's doing, wherever he's got to get to, and just work on that with him, or have him simulate something, or put him in a drill with someone that he can follow. Hey, watch what he does, skate like he skates, like little details like that, where you give him the opportunity to touch that puck or the opportunity to get there. So maybe he doesn't get there as quick as the other players. So start him a little lower down so that he can get there, have that sense, and say to him, hey, I want you to get there. So you got to hustle on this one. I'm going to give you a little bit of a head start, but I'm not always going to give you a head start. This is a one-time chance. So get on this puck, get your stick on the ice, see if you can disrupt this puck and see what you can do. And then I need you to back check hard, or whatever it is that he's doing, whether it's picking up a puck off the boards. And you know what? They can default into that. But at the end of the day, you're trying to make them better. Show them that you care. Show them we're going to get this. We're going to get it right. But I need you to believe we're going to get it right. You got to work at it and show them, break the skill down to the simplest form. And I think that that's a big part of it. And when we do this meeting and rolling the puck and those pucks off the boards on breakouts or in the offensive zone, we got to go through step by step, because some of our best players can't do it. It's off their toe. It's being booted to the slot. It's coming off their stick 15 different ways from Sunday. And so you got to break it down. Where are their feet? Where are their hands? Their hands are away from their body. They got to get their hands away from the body. They got to get the puck in the hip pocket. They got to kill the spin on the puck. They don't realize there's a spin on the puck, some of these young kids. So all those little details go into it. So you got to break the skill down to the simplest form so that they understand what they need to do.
Awesome. I've got David Samoes, hope I'm saying that right, has got his hand up. So David, if you want to turn your mic on there and go ahead with your question.
Thank you. Thanks for putting this on, Jamie. This is really great. I got a two-part question for you. I've heard you talk about small area games a handful of times tonight. I'm coaching U11 here up in Vanderhoof, a small northern community. Just coaching U11 or any youth for that matter, what percentage of small area games would you do in practices? And the second part of the question is, I see a lot of books behind you there. Do you have any good book recommendations on leadership or coaching?
Well, I'm not going to take any credit for the books because those are all my wife. She can read like no one's business. She reads way more than I do. I'm going to give her all the credit on that one. But in terms of, I'll get back to your book question in a second. But in terms of your small area game, I think it's important that these kids at a young. So let me go back. When I played, when I was growing up, it was always going to the outdoor rink, or my front yard was Lake Superior. So I'd go on the lake with a bunch of my buddies and we'd play keep away, or you had to learn how to play on the outdoor pond. And when you went to the outdoor rink and you weren't the biggest or strongest guy and you were playing against guys older than you, if you wanted to sit on the sidelines, you could sit on the sidelines. You weren't touching the puck. But if you were a little pit bull and wanted to get in there, well, then that's how you were going to learn. And that's the best time I had, was playing on the outdoor rink, because it gave me that confidence that, hey, I wanted to get that puck back. I want that puck. I don't care who's got the puck. I want the puck back. So I'm going to go try and get the puck back. I wasn't just one of those guys that were going to sit on the sidelines. And that's gone in today's youth. Now everyone's got their skills coach, and it's fancy, and it's reverse toe drags and things that are unrealistic in today's game. I'm sorry, but you don't see that. You don't see that. It's the meat and potatoes of the game that they have to work on. Picking pucks up off the boards, defense going back hard for pucks. How do they shield the puck? So in terms of all that, your small area games bring that all into light. How to protect the puck, how to get that line of protection, how to try and elude someone, how to try and get stick on the puck. All those small area games help that. And then they have to work in tight areas. They have to learn how to get the puck back. So with that being said, then you can create your offensive zone and your defensive zone from that. Does that make sense to you, Dave?
Yeah, you bet. It's sometimes I kind of feel a little bit lazy just letting the kids play, but I kind of feel that those games are kind of teaching themselves rather than me sitting out there telling them what to do, kind of PlayStation remote control type.
Well, they have to use their instincts, and I think that's the biggest thing. And yeah, everyone's looking at you going, well, why are we playing this game? Well, think about what they're doing, and then stop it halfway through, or after everyone goes through once, go, okay, now we got to find this shooter, or we got to find this player to pass to. This player's the shooter. He can only shoot, or she can only shoot. So they're the only shooter. So if you're playing 2-on-2, we got to get them the puck, but you can't cover that player. So any rebounds, you got to get to the net. So how quick can they box out? How fast can you get to the net? How fast can you elude someone after you make that pass and that puck goes to the net? So you have two shooters, let's say, on the 2-on-2 game, or the 3-on-3 game, you have a fourth player that's a shooter. So you're incorporating some different things, and you can do different layers of the game. So when you have those different layers of the game, I think it's really important that you stop it and say, hey, that was a great one-on-one. What a great stick. And you acknowledge what they're doing right. Their stick positioning, stick on the ice, stick on puck, how they angled someone, how they made a great play under the stick. I think all those little things, you bring that to light to them and they go, oh, I just did that. And they don't realize they're doing it, but by you reinforcing it, that helps give them confidence to try it again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you. And is it just like trying not to talk a whole lot and just bringing out the good points rather than kind of stopping the play and trying to talk too much?
Well, no, I think there's a place for it. You've got to let it go. Don't let them hang themselves. Do you know what I mean? But get them to that stage where everyone goes through one shift. Let's say, okay, we're going to play one shift, and everyone plays the one shift. And once it comes back, you're going to, okay, now I really want you guys got to focus on your sticks. Sticks are down. And if someone does get beat, then all you do is you just say, hey, you know what? We need your stick on the ice. Just blow it down. Double whistle means everyone stops where they are. Single whistle means you play, or you throw another puck in. It's continuous, whatever the game is that you have in mind for them. But I think it's really important that you point things out, and you could be talking to them in line. Your assistant coaches, he's controlling they're controlling the lines, or whoever's going next. They can be encouraging things. They can be, you're overseeing everything, but they're the ones that are picking out the little details. And then all of a sudden you stop. Okay, hey, we need better sticks here. We need better sticks, or we need better execution. We haven't got a shot on net yet. How come we haven't got a shot on net? We need a puck to the net. We got to get to the net. So I think there's ways that you can talk them through it, and not being negative, but pointing out some. Are you there, Dave? Sorry, I lost. I muted. I don't know how. You there?
Yeah, sorry, you cut out there a little bit. Yeah, sorry.
So
But no, that's awesome, Jamie. I really appreciate the.
Yeah, I think there's a balance, Dave, and I think you got to find that balance. But I think that you can, because once you do it once, you'll know, you'll instinctively, you'll find out that the kids will respond, especially when you start pointing things out and you encourage them, or you point something out that they got to get better at. They're going to want to please you. That's for sure.
That's great. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Just going on your book recommendation there, Jamie, or the questions from Dave anyway. Troy's got a book he wants to recommend. You held it up there. Troy, do you want to hold up your book there for everyone to see? I don't know, Jamie, I don't know if you've seen this or not, or you agree with it or not, but this is one of Troy's favorites there. Belfry Hockey, it looks like. Troy, you want to turn your mic on and tell us what's so good about that one?
You know what? I just found that it breaks down the details of working with kids at every level. It's so detailed and it's so easy to understand. And it goes, like Jamie was talking about, it's meat and potatoes, but it's working with the best players in the world. And he's doing things with the best players in the world that you can work with. Adam kids, Pee Wee kids, it doesn't matter. It's just the delivery that changes, but the message is always the same. It's a great book. I can't put it down. I can't put it down. It's highlighted.
That's great to hear. And I think the big thing is that it's all fundamentals, right? It's all the fundamentals of the game and how you execute the fundamentals. And it's just repeat and repeat. And that's what we talk about all the time. And then it's, like I said, good players, great players, and it's just consistency. And that's everything. That's everything. You see Jonathan, you see Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane is an example. It's just repeat and repeat. And yeah, he's skilled and he does things that a lot of players aren't able to do, but he does it consistently. And that's the biggest thing. So that's it. That, you know what, that is a good book. It really is. And for you to say that, the meat and potatoes, that's exactly what it is.
Okay, a couple more trickle in here. So hope you're okay to go a little longer here, Jamie, but
all good.
Has got a question. Any advice for coaches on how to move up from minor hockey to junior hockey or college hockey? So we'll kind of talk this a little bit, but guys like yourself who find themselves back in coaching at the bottom of the ladder, as it were, any advice for getting up to? I know you don't want to give away your job here, as you mentioned.
No. I think it's all about the connections you make, and you know what, everyone's different, and there's certain things in life that happen, and you know, whether you get fired or you could be pissed off, but you don't want to burn a bridge. You have to be respectful of that person. If you don't see eye to eye with someone, you don't have to badmouth them. You just don't have to, you just have your pleasantries with them. And I think the biggest thing is the connections you make. In today's game, it's unbelievable, the connections that are available through things like this, the Zoom, through the Coaches Association that we've put on, through the BC hockey or your provincial hockey. Everyone's so accessible now, and it's an easy connection. I think any opportunities that are out there, it's about calling someone. It's about taking that opportunity to make a phone call or to email, or if you know that a job's available. Hey, when I started coaching, I put out, well, for every NHL, American League, East Coast League team, Central League team, every junior team, I think there must have been, I don't know, 150, 200. And that was at the time, I just put my resume out. And you know, it's funny because only 3 people replied. And one of them was Larry Plow with a handwritten reply. There was no email at the time or anything like that. That was just mail, stamp, everything like that. But I just wanted to get my name out there. I wanted the people know that I was interested and I had something that I could offer them. Whether I did or not, whether I fit or not, that's entirely up to the person that you're interviewing with, or that you're trying to get a opportunity with. But I think that that's really important, that you get yourself out there, get your name out there, and be willing to learn and listen. And like I said, don't burn a bridge, because you never know when that bridge might come back and bite you, because he might know someone, and that recommendation is that, hey, this guy just badmouthed me. I don't know what kind of person he is. I think that it's really important of who you are. And I'm not saying you have to kiss anyone's butt, but just, you don't have to say, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all about the person. But I think that those connections that you make are really important when you get that opportunity. And remember, you don't need to move up fast or before you're ready. It's a process to get to where you want to get to. And it's just about staying persistent with it.
Awesome. Got another question, shifting gears here from Jim. Jim asks for some strategy here, Jamie, on how do you get your players ready to have a good start to a game? Often teams have slow starts and it's frustrating. And I know I've seen that myself. You go in there and have this great speech, you show some video and you think they're all ready to go, but they still come out flat footed. So do you have any strategies on getting your guys going from second to one, from puck drop, and keeping it going?
Well, I think it comes down to, I'll tell you guys a story. So in LA, we brought in a player named Michael Handzus. I had Michael as a rookie in St. Louis, and Michael Handzus could be one of the best teammates and best people I've ever met in the game. Like, just the ultimate professional. Doesn't say much, but when he says something, it's meaningful. And when we brought him into LA, it was to mentor Anze Kopitar. Anze's a young kid coming from Slovenia. So here's Michael Handzus, veteran player now and coming off an ACL. Comes into the dressing room and there's Kopi sitting on the couch, drinking a coffee, watching SportsCenter. Michael goes, "Come on, Kopi, let's go. Come on, going to the gym. Got to get you stretching." No, yeah. He just humming and hawing. Every day for a month, Michael grabbed Anze in. Finally, after a month, comes in my office. Michael comes in my office. He goes, "You seen Kopi?" I said, "I think he's in the weight room waiting for you." And right there, it's about your routine. Michael was trying to mentor him to get into a routine. And that routine was to talk about the game. It was talk about practice, talk about good practice habits, talk about perfect practice habits. Get yourself ready, get yourself warmed up, play the game before you even get on the ice. That mental, you can say what you want about mental imagery and everything like that. Goalies go through a routine about how they're going to make these saves. And I know, talking to Bill Ranford and Wade Flaherty, our goalie coach here, and Billy and I are real close, and talking to him about what he goes through with his goalies. But it's not only the goalies that can go through it, it's the players. Pick out your best things, your best scenarios. How you broke the puck out, off a scrum puck, off a perfect breakout, wheeling the net, using D to D, how you jump in the play, how you get your shots through, how you're going to defend, how your stick's going to be on the ice. Same with the forwards. It's just playing the game before you even play the game. Knowing the opposition. Okay, we're playing this team tonight. Okay, I know this guy. That's my job. I'm going to shut him down. I know this goalie. So if you're all those little details, they've actually played the game before they get on the ice, and then everything else is instinctual. So it's the routine that they have. And I know it's different with younger players, but with older players, it's getting them together and having that routine. And then whatever you're going to say to them, that's just the icing on the cake, because they should have prepared themselves. Prepare right. They should be prepared for the moment, not preparing when the moment happens.
I my own question to tack onto that one. How do you get a guy like Martin Handzus there to become that guy that he wants to mentor other players. I find, with younger guys, 14, 15, 16, it's tough enough picking a bona fide captain or assistant that's, exhibits some trait of leadership, let alone one that's going to actually pull guys by the arm and tell them to go to the gym or work on a skill. But how do you, I think that's the role of a coach, I would guess, correct me if I'm wrong, but what do you do as a coach to inspire a veteran like that to then spur on his younger players?
Well, I think it's really important that that player has to exemplify what you want him to. So with Michael Handzus, he always said, he goes, he could have never done that. He was coming off the ACL, so it took him a little bit to get to Kopi. It wasn't till probably the second half of the season, because Michael was trying to get his game in order. And it's really tough when you're talking to your star player, and Kopi was our star player, and Michael Handzus, for all intents purposes, is a real quality third line player. He's probably a 2.5. Play as high as a 2 in these younger days, but he was probably a 2.5, 20 goal scorer. But he said, I can only talk to him when I get my game in order. When I do the things that I need to do on the ice, and I can do it game in and game out, shift in and shift out, that's when I can have a voice. But until that time, I can't do it. And I think that just shows you the kind of person he is, because he's not going in there telling guys what to do when he's not capable of doing. It's got to be for what he's capable of doing. And when he stepped on the ice and started feeling like he was 100% from that ACL, that was huge for him, because then it allowed him to have a voice. And it wasn't a big voice, but when he had something to say, people listened, because he was doing it on the ice. It was transferred on the ice. And I think that that's really important. No one can ever question Jonathan Toews. No one can ever question Marian Hossa, because those guys are the two hardest working guys I've ever seen in Chicago. Duncan Keith, no one can ever question them. They just jump on their back and they lead. And when they're doing something, you want to do something. You want to be part of that. You have that natural pull to follow them. And it's just the gravitation just pulls you to them. It's infectious. You want to be around them.
That's fascinating. Guys,
so before you go on, I'll tell you just
Sure.
quick about Michael Handzus. So when we were in Chicago, we traded for Michael Handzus at the trade deadline. Everyone thought we were crazy. San Jose wanted a 3rd round pick, and we were trying to get him to a 4th. And Joel, Mike Kitchen, and I all had Michael Handzus as a rookie. We knew what he was going to bring. Well, doesn't Michael Handzus break his wrist in the first game of the playoffs? So he's got a broken wrist. He's got to get shot up every game. He doesn't miss a practice. He goes out for the morning skates. He doesn't get it shot up. He's got it in a small bone, and he ended up getting shot up every time, every game. He never said a word. There was not one time where a player got hurt that our trainer had to go out and carry him off the ice, because everyone knew what Michael was going through, and there was no pain greater than what he was playing through and with, that no one could ever say anything or be as bad as him. So at the end of the day, when we won the cup in Boston with those 2 goals in the last 17 seconds, we flew back to Chicago, and Michael was only with us from the trade deadline, and it was a strike shortened season. So it was only 48 games. So he never played that many games with us, and he only played the playoffs. But your captain usually carries the cup off the plane. Guess who carried the cup off the plane? And it wasn't Jonathan Toews. The answer is Michael Handzus. That's how highly he was thought of, because of what he did and how he played and how he carried himself. Talk about a true professional.
Wow, that's such a cool story. Alexi's got a question here. We've touched on it a little bit here, but his question here is, how would you motivate kids? He's talking about the U13 level in particular, but during the COVID situation, as there's no end prize because of restrictions and kids seem unmotivated practices. Jamie, for some context, I think all of our championships, playoffs are canceled. There's not even going to be a trophy to hand out or a banner. So you guys are a little different, obviously in a different situation. You're going to have that cup, but if you had players that didn't have games to look forward to or a championship to win, how would you go about motivating them to keep at their skill development?
Well, it's a great question. I think you got to get right down to their heart, and you got to did they really want to be part? Did they really want to continue playing hockey? And we all say we do. I'll tell you right now, I'm missing this because I miss seeing my friends at the rink. Because I skate as much as I can, even, you know, because it's a camaraderie. It's what we do. But for 13-year-olds, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Where do they want to go to? How good do they want to be? Where do they want to get to? I think it's really important that this is a great time for them once they do get back on the ice to work on their skills. It's not about a banner. It's working on your skills so you're prepared for that next opportunity. Whenever that next opportunity is, you don't know who's in the stands. You don't know whose father's going to be coaching next year or whose coach you're going to be out on the ice with when you're doing something. And if you show that body language, bad body language, hey, we can only control 3 things in my estimation. I always tell players this: control what you can control. And the biggest thing is that you got to control your preparation. So you prepared. So whether that's off the ice, coming to the rink, that means your skates are sharpened, your skate laces are good, your sticks, you got your stick cut, your stick taped, everything's ready to go. You got tape in your bag for your shin pads, all that preparation. And in the off season, it's making sure you're conditioned so that you're ready to go when you're trying out for that team. There's no excuses. You can't give any excuses. Okay. The second thing is your attitude. When you go, your attitude is huge. That means body language. That means looking when a coach is talking in the dressing room, in between periods, you're not fiddling around. You're not looking at your skates. You're not tying your skates. You're not fixing your shin pad. You're not fixing your stick. You're looking at your coach right in the eye because you know that what's coming out of his mouth is important. You can control that as a person, as a player. You control that. When someone talks to you, you look him in the eye. Once we get back to shaking hands, you shake his hand and you give him a firm handshake. You look him right in the eye, him or her right in the eye. That's an attitude. For me, that displays a lot. That tells a lot. Body language. You don't get a good pass. Throw your arms up in the air, throw your stick down, you shake your head, you embarrass your teammate. Well, you're embarrassing your teammate, but you're also embarrassing me as a coach. That's bad body language. You don't skate hard back to the bench. You hang high. You don't back check. You don't do the little things. All that matters. You can control that. And the last thing you can control is your work ethic, how hard you work, because that's up to you. That's totally up to you. You don't need someone on your shoulder saying you got to go harder, you got to push harder, you got to skate harder. So for me, it's all about your preparation, your attitude, and your work ethic. You control those 3 things. I'll take a player that has those 3 things, and you can tell the player that. And talk to the player. Talk to the player about those 3 things, and then talk to him about the fact that, well, how do you plan on getting better? You're 13 going 14, and you want this opportunity to get drafted in the WHL or get an opportunity in the WHL or get looked at or get noticed. Well, how are you going to do that? Because you know what? There's someone else that's taking another rep. There's someone else that's doing something a little extra. There's someone else that's digging in that wants it a little more than you right now, that's motivated a little harder, that's trying to stay the course because he sees the light at the end of the tunnel, because this isn't going to last forever. Because you know there is going to be an opportunity. So they're taking advantage of this time to work on their skills, to work on being good teammates, to work on being a good person so that they can be better once this thing clears. And I think that that's the biggest thing. So I'm kind of passionate about that because those things really bother me, especially a player that comes and says, oh, how come you're not playing me? How come I don't get my ice time? These kids are worried more about the ice time they're not getting as opposed to the worry about the ice time they are getting. And if they worry about the ice time they are getting, then their ice time will be more efficient. Instead of the 8 minutes, they'll get 12 minutes instead of worrying about the 3 minutes that they're not getting. So, sorry, I just got off on a little tangent there.
No, I feel the same, and I'm glad that you have the same passion for that at your level. This is just kind of an aside question, but does it ever go away? Do players ever stop throwing their hands up or rolling their eyes at bad plays, or do you still deal with that at your level, or is there a level where we're all just professionals now and we don't have that body language anymore?
No, we have it, and sometimes we have players that have it, and you know it doesn't get to the coach because it gets to the player, it gets to a teammate, and the teammate will go, it'll be challenging. It'll be, don't ever embarrass me like that again, or I'll knock your head off. I'm sorry, but that's just the bottom line is you want to embarrass me, I'll embarrass you.
Right.
And it'll be an embarrassment. And so it's tough because a lot of players take pride. Maybe some players aren't as skilled as other players, but they're sure sacrificing and working as hard as they can to be the best they can be. So don't try and embarrass me. And I think that's the biggest thing. And, before it gets to us, and sometimes it does get to us, we deal with it, but most of the time it's headed off at the pass.
Got more of a comment here from Brad. Brad says, thanks, Jamie and Dave, for the discussion. You're welcome. On my half, it's more Jamie than me. But Jamie, I'd like to see more people adopt your philosophy on how to lead with positive example, especially with respectful language. Have a great Christmas, Brad. So I want to echo that myself. We're getting on to 9 o'clock here in BC, but it's pushing 11 for you, Jamie. So I couldn't be more thankful for the time you've given us here. I feel like we could talk all night, but I think we should probably shut it down for everyone's sake here. So unless anyone has a last minute question here, or Jamie, if you want to wrap this up, and if there's anything you want to leave us with, some parting thoughts or last bits of wisdom, we'll give you that for a second here. Otherwise, we'll probably close things down here.
Well, I just like to say thank you very much for everyone's attention and time. I know that these are all trying times, and we're trying to do the best possible, and everyone's got their own challenges that they're going through. And I think the big thing is that for me as a young coach, when I was breaking in, there was so much I wanted to do, but it's just, you always revert back to your fundamentals. And that's what the game's won and lost on, the fundamentals. You compete and how hard the kids play for each other, with each other. And I think that's bringing a team together. There's no better thing than, I get goosebumps when we're talking about LA and Chicago, because I got such great memories, and those things, they never go away. No matter you win a championship, you're connected for life, and those connections, you remember those things. And the one thing that you do always remember too is any person that you really touched in terms of your coaching, and what you did for them, and you showed that you cared. And I think in today's game, it is all about caring is more than anything, because you got to, especially in these times, you show them that you care, you show them that you believe in them. I think they'll surprise you in a lot different ways. And there's some kids you got to be hard on, and they respond to that. And there's some kids you just got to coddle and make sure you bring them along. Everyone's got something that makes them tick, and you got to find that. But don't stop trying to find that, and continue to do what you're doing, because, I was one of you at one time, and I aspired to be who I am today. And don't stop trying to aspire to be that, because you'll get to where you want to get to. Take the right steps, do the right things, and it is a process. But remember, you're the only one that can change it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's a great way to leave it here. Jamie, I've been trying to get Jamie on for a while, but when I phoned Jamie initially, he called me back in about 5 minutes. And even now, he's taking his time. He's getting ready for Christmas, let alone it's an NHL season that's coming up in only weeks. And man, he does not have to give us the time, but he sure did. And man, did he deliver on it? So Jamie, I think I speak on behalf of all of us. Thank you so much for your time, first of all, and everything you imparted on us here. Does not go unnoticed. And as I said about 4 times already, I'm an LA fan, but I wish you nothing but the best and the Jets as far as luck goes. And you're going to have quite the division with the Canadian division. There are some, I'm interested to see how that goes for you, but best of luck with it. So Merry Christmas to you, happy holidays, or however you may celebrate this time. And to everyone else, thanks everyone for making time for us here, staying up into the wee hours. And we will join you hopefully next month as well. Thanks everyone.
Well, thanks very much, everyone, and have a happy holidays, and stay safe.